Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes: match words with action for Xi-Biden summit to happen, Chinese envoy tells US. Making Farfetch fashionable to investors again is a stretch. North Korea is shutting embassies. The people of Hong Kong are growing more tolerant. Progress towards net zero is slow but steady. Match words with action for Xi-Biden summit to happen, Chinese envoy tells US. South China Morning Post. The US must stop playing with fire over Taiwan if it wants to clear hurdles to a much-awaited leaders' summit next week, according to Beijing's ambassador to Washington. China's ambassador Xia Feng said the top priority for both sides is to create an enabling environment for Presidents Xi Jinping and Joe Biden when the annual APEC meetings start on November 17 in San Francisco. President Xi has yet to confirm whether he will attend the event. The ambassador said Beijing wants the US to clear obstacles and manage differences with concrete action, to avoid crossing any lines and properly handle sensitive issues such as Taiwan. In response, the U.S. ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, doubled down on freedom of navigation in the South China Sea and trade measures related to national security. Addressing the 200-strong audience, Burns cautioned that there were still major differences left to resolve, including issues such as Taiwan, Chinese military activities in the Indo-Pacific, and Beijing's trade practices. Making Farfetch fashionable to investors again is a stretch. Bloomberg. Luxury online retailer Farfetch is under pressure to turn its fortunes around, following heavy losses and a fall in demand for luxury goods. The company's debts total $1.6 billion, while its market capitalization has shrunk to $630 million from the $26 billion high it reached in 2021. The firm's CEO Jose Neves must simplify the business by selling off assets, including New Guards Group, and complete the deal to acquire a 47.5% stake in Yoox Net-a-Porter, if he is to avoid raising capital from investors or putting the company up for sale. North Korea is shutting embassies. Economist. North Korea is closing a number of embassies in a move that has been interpreted as an indication that UN sanctions are working. The closures could be the result of the embassy's inability to cover their costs, with the North Korean regime unwilling to make up the shortfall. Former North Korean diplomat Tae Yong-ho has suggested that the closures show that the UN sanctions are working effectively. However, it is also possible that North Korean sanctions breakers may be able to work more effectively away from the scrutiny that embassies attract. The people of Hong Kong are growing more tolerant. Economist. The Gay Games, a week-long event celebrating LGBT+ athletes, has taken place in Hong Kong as the city reconsiders the rights of sexual minorities. The event was delayed for a year due to the pandemic. In September, Hong Kong's top court ruled that the government must address its failure to provide an alternative framework for legal recognition of same-sex partnerships. In October, a different court ruled in favor of equal inheritance rights for same-sex couples. A recent survey found that 60% of Hong Kongers support gay marriage, up from 38% a decade ago. However, conservative lawmakers and anti-LGBT+ activists argue that the games subvert traditional Chinese values and are funded by foreigners, violating the city's national security law. Some pro-democracy activists also opposed the event, claiming that it represented an embrace of the illegitimate regime tasked with crushing Hong Kong. China has tightened its grip on Hong Kong since the pro-democracy protests in 2019, restricting civil society and purging the local government of liberal types. Progress towards net zero is slow but steady. Financial Times. Despite the negative news surrounding climate change and the energy transition, progress towards decarbonization is still moving rapidly, according to an op-ed in the Financial Times. The costs of mitigating global warming continue to fall, and countries such as Germany are making impressive strides in reducing coal use. Solar power installation is rising quickly, and solar manufacturing capacity is set to double by 2024. The International Energy Agency predicts that renewable power generation and greater energy efficiency will help to achieve net zero emissions by 2030. However, there is still much work to be done. MTR fails to get conforming bid for Tongcheng site in blow to Property Outlook. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong's MTR Corp has failed to attract property developers to jointly develop a large-scale mixed-use property project in Tongcheng, near the city's airport, after receiving no conforming tender for the development. This comes after the government failed to sell another site nearby, showing uncertainty in Hong Kong's housing market outlook. The lack of proposals suggests the base price set by MTR is unattractive to investors, and analysts cited a lack of confidence in the market outlook. Regulators eye cooperation to boost fintech innovation in Greater Bay Area. South China Morning Post. Regulators from mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau have signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) to promote fintech in the Greater Bay Area. The People's Bank of China, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and the Monetary Authority of Macau will collaborate to link up their fintech regulatory frameworks and support high-quality financial development in the region. The MOU aims to create a network that will make it easier for fintech companies in mainland China and Hong Kong to set up cross-border businesses. Despite Beijing tightening control over its financial system, the One Country, Two Systems model provides a testing ground for cross-boundary financial innovation. VW and Stellantis show the script has flipped with China's carmakers. Bloomberg. Chinese electric vehicle (EV) upstarts Xpeng and Zhejiang Leapmotor have secured deals with legacy automakers Volkswagen and Stellantis, respectively, in a reversal of the usual flow of technology and know-how from west to east. The move signifies the competitive threat posed to established automakers by little-known Chinese rivals. According to UBS analysts, Western automakers could lose a fifth of their global market share to Chinese rivals by 2030. Co can be superstar, Smith says as he draws a crowd at golf's Hong Kong Open. South China Morning Post. Australian golfer Cameron Smith has said Hong Kong player Tai Chi Ko could be a superstar in the sport after playing with him in the Hong Kong Open on November 18. Smith praised Ko, who drew the biggest cheers of the day with his performance, despite finishing on par. Smith said he was surprised at the number of spectators who turned out to watch the tournament, and he was looking forward to the LIV Golf Team event in Hong Kong next year. Smith finished the first round with a score of 63, putting him joint top with Eugenio Shikara. The Chinese yuan is losing value, yet gaining ground. Economist. Foreign direct investment (FDI) in China turned negative in Q3 2021 for the first time since quarterly data began in 1998, reflecting foreign disillusionment with China's economic prospects and policymaking, according to The Economist. The reversal may be due to foreign investors removing more money from the country than they put in, through a mixture of repatriated profits, repaid interfirm loans, and asset sales. The report also highlights that the combination of an interest rate gap and geopolitical tensions has hurt one kind of globalization but may be helping the embrace of China's currency, the yuan. Market movers, stocks seeing action on Thursday and why. The Globe and Mail. Shares of Rogers Communications Incorporated, RCI.BT, surged on Thursday after the telecom company reported a net loss of $99 million in its most recent quarter. However, revenue grew 36% year-over-year to $5.09 billion. Rogers attributed the loss to higher costs related to its recent acquisition and integration of Shaw Communications Incorporated. The company added 261,000 net new wireless customers during the quarter. Canadian Tire Corporation Limited, CTCAT, rose after announcing it is laying off 3% of its workforce and cutting costs due to economic pressures affecting consumer demand. The company reported a net loss of $66.4 million in the third quarter, along with a reduction in its investment plan for the future. Suncor Energy Incorporated, SUT, saw gains after beating market estimates for third-quarter profit. The company's strong refining margins and higher sales volumes from its oil sands operations contributed to the positive results. Suncor's total upstream production declined due to international asset divestments, but its net production of synthetic crude increased. US sanctioning of Hong Kong is like a serial killer accusing a petty criminal. SCMP opinion. U.S. politicians have introduced two pieces of legislation in the Senate and House of Representatives that aim to pressure the Biden administration to sanction 49 local judges and prosecutors in Hong Kong. These politicians should not be sitting in judgment of Hong Kong's judiciary and its officers, according to Alex Lowe of the South China Morning Post. He argues that the U.S. should be subject to sanctions for its own human rights abuses, as documented by human rights organizations and international agencies. China's SMIC lifts annual capex forecast, sees lower Q4 gross margin. Reuters. Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corp. (SMIC) has increased its annual capital expenditure forecast to approximately $7.5 billion and expects lower fourth-quarter gross margins. The Chinese chip foundry had previously stated that it expected capital expenditure in 2023 to be flat compared to 2022, which was around $6.35 billion. SMIC expects a gross margin of 16 to 18% in the fourth quarter, down from 19.8% in the third quarter, and projects a 1 to 3% sequential increase in fourth-quarter revenue. The company reported a more than 80% decline in third-quarter profit to $470.8 million, with revenue dropping to $1.62 billion from $1.91 billion in the prior year. Biden at APEC with Xi should shine light on political prisoners, U.S. panel. South China Morning Post. The Congressional Executive Commission on China, CECC, an influential congressional panel, has called on U.S. President Joe Biden to raise concerns about Beijing's human rights abuses and demand an end to China's transnational repression activities during his meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. The commission has submitted a list of 40 political prisoners, including Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kong activists, and Chinese human rights defenders, that it wants Biden to discuss with Xi. The request comes ahead of a summit between the two leaders during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Gathering. U.S. stocks futures mixed as markets await more policy cues. Yahoo! U.S. stock index futures struggled for direction on November 9 as uncertainty about when the Federal Reserve will start easing financial conditions kept investors on edge as they waited for further policy cues from central bank officials. Well, folks, that's all the news we have for today. Let's take a moment to recap what we've learned. First, we heard from China's envoy to the U.S., who warned that the U.S. must stop playing with fire over Taiwan if it wants to clear hurdles for a Xi-Biden summit. It seems like Beijing is putting the pressure on Washington to take some concrete action and manage their differences. Will they be able to find common ground? We'll have to wait and see. Next, we learned that luxury online retailer Farfetch is facing some challenges. With heavy losses and a fall in demand for luxury goods, the company's CEO must make some tough decisions to turn things around. Will they be able to simplify the business and regain investor confidence? Only time will tell. In other news, North Korea is shutting down some of its embassies, which some see as a sign that UN sanctions are working. It's an interesting development, and one that may have implications for the country's secretive activities. Are the sanctions really having an impact? It's hard to say for sure. On a more positive note, Hong Kong seems to be growing more tolerant. The recent Gay Games event and the increasing support for gay marriage show that the city is re-evaluating its stance on LGBT+ rights. However, there are still conservative lawmakers and anti-LGBT+ activists who oppose these changes. It's a complex situation, but progress is being made. Moving on to climate change, we heard that progress towards net zero emissions is slow but steady. The costs of mitigating global warming are falling, and countries like Germany are making impressive strides in reducing coal use. It's encouraging to see these positive developments, but there's still much work to be done. In the business world, Hong Kong's MTR Corp failed to attract developers for a property project, reflecting uncertainty in the housing market outlook. It seems that the base price set by the company was unattractive to investors. Will they be able to make any progress in the future? We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, regulators from mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau have signed an MOU to promote fintech in the Greater Bay Area. This collaboration aims to make it easier for fintech companies to set up cross-border businesses. It's an interesting development and one that could have significant implications for the region's financial industry. In the automotive industry, Chinese electric vehicle upstarts have secured deals with legacy automakers Volkswagen and Stellantis. This is a reversal of the usual flow of technology and know-how from west to east. It seems that Chinese rivals are posing a competitive threat to established automakers. Will they be able to maintain their momentum? Time will tell. And finally, in sports news, Australian golfer Cameron Smith has praised Hong Kong player Tai Chi Ko, saying he could be a superstar in the sport. It's always exciting to see new talent emerging, and it will be interesting to see how Ko's career progresses. Well, folks, that's all the news we have for today. It's been quite a mix of stories, from international politics to business and sports. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics. What do you think about the situation in Taiwan? Can Farfetch turn things around? Are you optimistic about progress towards net zero emissions? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of news. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.